Hey everyone, Cleo here, and today we're diving into my May TBR. So I'm filming this at the last minute possible because it was very unclear to me how much I was gonna get done off of my April TBR. But it seems like this is the last day of April. It seems like I'm gonna get more or less everything done. It's just like one book that I was like ideally gonna be able to get to in April, but that wasn't part of my official April TBR. That won't get done. So all in all, April has been an amazing month. So let's hope we can carry on that momentum into May, because May is still going to be a pretty difficult month to get through all the books that I need to get through. So in the month of May, there are first up 4 books that I need to read that I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to do a separate video for that, like more or less on the 1st of April and maybe like the 31st of March or something like that. I found out that I was selected to be a judge on the Booktube Prize, and so the Booktube Prize takes place over the course of 2 months and you have to read 6 books for it if you're a member of the jury. And so over the course of April and May I had to read 6 books, and so in the month of April I got around to 2 of them, so I still need to read 4 for that in the month of May. And so at some point in the month of May I will have a video out talking about the 6 books that I need to read for my selection. My full thoughts on these books, including the ones that I've already read at this point, are only going to come out in June once the sort of like judging for that entire period is closed. So 4 books that I need to read for that, which is the reason why this is why I'm hoping that my reading momentum that I'm in at the moment is going to carry on, because ideally I still want to get quite a lot of other books done in the month of May, because if you are following this channel for a while, you know that the 1st of July is like the first deadline for my 0 TBR. So over the past few years I've been trying to get down my TBR, I've been trying to reduce my TBR, and this year in particular is the year in which I'm finally gonna reach 0 TBR, and my goal is to do it as quickly as possible, and the incentives that I give myself are higher the quicker I do it. So if I do it before the 1st of July, I get nice rewards. If I do it later, I still get rewards, but they're not as exuberant as the ones that I get for doing it before the 1st of July. So my idea is, aside from those 4 books that I have to read for the Booktube Prize, ideally I want to finish all other books that are over 400 pages that I have left on my TBR at this point in time, which are 6 I think at this point in time, because one got added to it very recently. So let's first talk about the one that is added, because it is the highest priority for me, and that is The Discord of Gods by Jen Lyon. So this is the 5th and final book in A Chorus of Dragons. Over the past few months, every single month of this year so far, I have been sacrificing reading time in order to reread all of the published works in A Chorus of Dragons so far, in order to prepare for this release. So obviously now that it's out, I want to immediately get to it, and so I'm actually already reading it, but I'm not that far into it yet because I was prioritizing getting to the books that were on my April TBR. So my goal is definitely to finish this one. This is an epic high fantasy story in which, am I going to do this entire synopsis again? Basically, it's epic high fantasy. It has a whole ton of complexity to it. You're very much thrown into the deep end, and definitely in the first one you're going to be confused quite a lot of times, but know that there is more to this story. The author knows what she's talking about, and as you go through the books you will start to understand more, especially on a reread. You will kind of start to connect those dots that weren't there initially. It's very much a fun ride. It's got reincarnation, soul swapping. It's got vampire type characters within the story. It's got demons within it. It has a very interesting structure with multiple layers of narration, where storytelling itself is very much being put into focus as well. It's a great ride, and I hope that more of you will try to read it. It's definitely gaining popularity at this point in time. When me and Sada first read it last year, there weren't that many people who had already read it, and so I'm very happy to see that this time around so many more people have found their way to this series, and so very eager to round off this series. Though I hope that Jen Lyons has something else lurking in the background, because I do want to read more of her works, and it would be a shame for this to be the final book in a long while that I have of hers to read. Going over the remainder of my TBR from highest page count down to lowest. Next up we have And the Mountains Echoed by Khaled Hosseini. So this is an Afghan book. I have read another Khaled Hosseini. I have read A Thousand Splendid Suns. His most famous one is probably The Kite Runner, which I still need to read, but you know, I think both of these I was able to buy at like a cheap rate, and so that's the reason why I have these and not The Kite Runner. But definitely if I like this one, I definitely want to read The Kite Runner. But A Thousand Splendid Suns definitely was a 5-star read for me. This one, like A Thousand Splendid Suns, is set in Afghanistan. In A Thousand Splendid Suns, we're kind of looking at this like interesting dynamic between two wives to the same man. But in this one, I think we're looking at a sibling relationship or a friendship. I don't know too much about the story in itself, but I'm interested to see how this one will play out and whether it will be as heartbreaking as A Thousand Splendid Suns turned out to be. Next up we have one that I'm actually already reading, and I'm redoing this part of this video because I was actually already giving you a wrap up. And so I'm talking about The Lost World and Other Stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I have already read The Lost World. I won't talk about it except for to say that I accidentally turned on this audiobook and then I couldn't put it down anymore. So I don't know what the other stories within this collection are going to be, but they're all centered around this character called Professor Challenger. And so in The Lost World in particular, Professor Challenger has returned from Latin America from an expedition that he was doing there, and he claims to have seen a dinosaur over there. However, nobody believes him. He becomes a mockery to his fellow colleagues. However, he kind of challenges people around him to prove him wrong. He wants to set up an expedition and have like a few people go there to figure out whether he was lying or not, and that's where the story unfolds. So I really enjoyed the writing style, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing on and reading these other stories. Don't know what they're going to be about, but I'm looking forward to continuing on with this one. Next we have On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. So I really enjoyed the Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I have distinct memories of that one because I basically read that one completely as an audiobook while I was running. And so like when I'm remembering that book, I'm always remembering the places in which I was running at the time that I was listening to this one. I will most likely not be doing the same for On the Come Up. It is a pretty thick one, but in principle the font is like super big and the spacing between lines is pretty big, so I'm pretty sure that I'll probably fly through this one pretty quickly. So this is a YA book about this young girl called Bree, and I think she wants to be a rapper, and I'm gonna assume that part of the conflict is that her parents want a different life for her, but to be fair, I don't actually know that. I just know that this involves a girl who wants to be a rapper. I don't know more about it. I'm eager to read this one. I basically bought this one when it just came out, and so it's a real shame that I still haven't got around to it more than 2 years later, I believe. Well, what is actually a real shame is the next one, and that is S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. So this is a very special book, and this is probably, up until recently, this was one of the most expensive books that was on my shelves. I bought it when it probably just came out, and probably now you can find it for way cheaper than I paid for it. But so basically this is kind of a book within a book. So this is also the one that could totally upset my plans because I have no idea how quick I'm gonna get through this one. So basically inside is a different book. So inside we have Ship of Theseus, and basically this is a book that has sort of like stuff within it. So it is a book that luckily only has like short amount of text on each page, but then in the margins there's a lot of these notes being written, and then sometimes you also have like these postcards that are inserted and things like that. And so basically the story takes place both in the text and in the margins, and so I don't know how quick I'm gonna get through this one. Don't even remember anything about what either the story within the story or the story in the margins is about. But at this point in time, I am not gonna look it up anymore. So it just basically says like one book, two readers, a world of mystery, menace, and desire. So I'll probably do a reading vlog when I'm actually gonna read this one. I am very much intrigued, and it's intimidated me so much over the past few years that I'm just also very excited about the fact that finally this is gonna force me to pick it up. And the final book, over 400 pages long, that I still have left is Emperor of the Eight Islands by Leon Hearn, and this is also the final fantasy on my bookshelf. And so this is a Japanese-inspired fantasy. I don't know more about what takes place within it. I'm expecting like court intrigue, so that type of stuff, samurai type of culture perhaps. But to be fair, I really don't know too much more about it. It is definitely a cover by, and on the back I can kind of see that it's kind of set within the forest, which really attracts me, but it also has like court life, savage battlefields, mythical medieval Japan inhabited by warriors, assassins, ghosts, and guardian spirits. So it is a brilliantly imagined novel full of drama and intrigue. Could be great, but I also never hear anybody talk about it, so that could go either way, I guess. But so yeah, I definitely at least want to give this one a go and see if I need to continue with the series or not. And so that is my goal. That's what I want to finish. However, ideally, I would also like to still finish another one, which is Meanwhile in Dopamine City by TBR. So this is like close to 400 pages, and this is a story about a father-daughter relationship, which I bought this book 2 years ago, and I bought it because I absolutely want to get around to it immediately. Let's admit it, it's a cover buy. Yellow is my favorite color. So when I saw this cover, and because I grew up with Pokemon, I was like, oh, it looks like Pikachu. So I wanted it. But so it's about a father-daughter relationship, and the daughter is like becoming a teenager. The father is a single parent. The daughter is becoming a teenager. She is exposed to these outside influences, and so she wants to, you know, dress a certain way, and she wants to get a smartphone so that she can be in contact with her friends and things like that. However, the father starts to feel like the more her daughter goes into that world, the more her daughter is involved within social media and stuff like that, the more he is losing her. So I'm guessing it's about intergenerational conflict, about these sort of like differences within the ways in which certain generations have been raised. Now, when I went through this one recently, I also saw that it has like a different layout for the second half of this book. The first half is just like regularly placed, but then the second half has like these columns, and like some of the columns are like barely visible. They're in this like very light gray, so I don't know whether that's like a printing error or whether that's intentional, but I'm guessing I'm gonna find out. So ideally I still get around to this one. And then I do also have Becca's 48-hour bookoplathon coming up in the month of May, and for that one I could put up other books, but I'm actually assuming that for that one I'm gonna read one of the Booktube Prize books, because at this point in time we just have 2 prompts that are published yet. I don't know whether I'm gonna be able to fit anything in for Gods, but at least for the prompt of reading a short book, so under 300 pages, there are 2 of the Booktube Prize books that would fit that prompt, so I'm guessing I'm gonna save at least one of these for that weekend. Rather than put even more on this TBR. I think this is already excessive enough. I definitely, if I get around to this one, I'm more than set for finishing Project Zero TBR in June. I could do a little bit worse this month than that and still manage in June, I think. But so ideally I do all of this, and then my June is going to be a little bit less stressful, especially since I have 2 weeks holiday in June, and a holiday can go either way. Either you read a ton, or you actually spend so much time doing other stuff that you don't get around to reading. So I preferably don't want to put too much stress on reading in the month of June. So that was that. I'm going to round off this video here. Let me know if any of these books seem familiar to you, if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were on them, if you have any interest in any of these. And if not, just let me know what you will be reading in June. What's your, like, in June? Why do I keep thinking of June? In May, what is your, like, priority read for the month of May? But so yeah, with that I'm going to round off this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys for the next one. Bye!